All right. So I've just learned some useful ways to use the wiggle expression inside of After Effects, and I want to show people. This recording is mainly just for myself in case I forget, but I thought it'd be cool to show what I've learned. So let's get into it. So I have this circle here. Um, Everyone knows the wiggle expression inside of After Effects. So if I pull up the position value by hitting P, I'll click on the stopwatch to bring up the expression editor, and I'll go wiggle frequency. Let's give a frequency of 3 and amplitude of 36. So what this simple expression does is it gives you an automated movement with a frequency of 3 and an amplitude of 36. So if I increase the amplitude here, let's say 360, you can see the movement, the spacing, the space that it moves is much larger. If I increase the frequency to 6, it's it's faster. It's more sporadic. It's more sporadic. A lot more hyper. The more you increase the frequency. Yeah, cool. Show you what it looks like on the graph editor if I enable graph view. Show post expression graph. Okay, and I'll select a property. Wow, that looks cool. So it gives you the path in which it moves. All right, I haven't seen that before. If I click on the graph editor, this is what it looks like. This is what the animation looks like on the graph editor. It's basically frequency, amplitude. Increase this by to 600. It does anything? Yeah, it completely changes it. Okay, I'll disable the graph editor. 303. All right, cool. So how would I just say I just want it to move in the Y only, but not affect the X? So for that, the simplest way to do it I'll just cut this expression. The simplest way to do it would to just be separate the dimensions of your position values. Your position value is in X and Y right here, but you can separate it out, separate dimensions, so that you can affect them individually, or they're in its individual dimension, which you can add an expression to them individually. So the transform Y position, I'll just paste the wiggle expression on there. And yeah, that does exactly what I need it to do. Yeah, that's the simplest way to go about it. It's moving on only the Y position. And if I wanted to move on the X, I can just put the expression there. And now it's just moving on the X position. But I don't want, for my purposes, I don't want to do that. I'll just keep everything on its own dimension, like its own property. So with the position, all on the same line. I'm gonna write an expression to call upon its value. So square bracket value, square bracket 0, and value square bracket 1, and close this off with a square bracket. There we go. Right now this expression doesn't do anything at the moment. All it's really doing is saying, oh, it's calling upon value with 0 inside of it is calling upon the first value in this array, in this position property. This position property has an array of 2 values, and it starts from 0, which is 1024 here on the x, and 1, which is 1024 here on the y. So 0, 1. So value 0 is equal to 1024 on the x, and value 1 is 1024 on the y. I'm sure I'm not explaining this clearly, but I'm just learning expressions myself, and this is sort of my understanding with it. So now what I can do on the first value here, I can just add 500, and it'll move 500 pixels in that direction. So it was 1024, now it's 1524. And I can also, as an example, for the second value, I can do some simple math, divide by 2, and that will cut the y value by 2. Now it's 512. It will divide the y value by 2, which is 512. So I'll just delete that. Yeah. So that is value. The value expression is very useful in After Effects. It's like the foundation and basis to do a lot of different, to build your expressions. So value is a good one to know. And with that, I will add the wiggle expression on just the y coordinate by replacing this value with wiggle. So frequency, amplitude. And yeah, that does exactly what I did before when I separated the dimension. Now it's all on one line. Yeah, cool. It's only moving in the y. So if I want to move it in the x, I'll just switch these around. So I'll take the first value, cut it. So this is now x, and change this to a 0, and paste, change this to a 1. Right, I gotta close my bracket. There we go. So I just switched it around. Now it's now it's on the x-axis. It's only wiggling on the x-axis. Let's see. I'll play around with these numbers. So if I increase this amplitude to say 600, it moves. That's much larger. Yeah, it moves. The distance it moves is much larger. So give it 1,000. I'll also increase the frequency as well. And yeah. So the movement is so big that it's getting close to the frame on there. Let's try to make it go out of the frame. There we go. Okay. Maybe I'll increase it some more. All right. Cool. It's moving so much that it's going out of this frame. But what if I want to say limit? So I'll pull up my ruler here, limit where it can go. So I don't want it to go beyond here, and I don't want it to go beyond here, no matter the expression that I type, no matter what numbers that I type in, or how big I want it to move. It's not going to go beyond here and here. And with that, I'm going to use the clamp expression. But first of all, I want to show you what the clamp expression does. So in a new composition, I'll just create a new ellipse. All right, cool. And a rectangle. So I'm just trying to make a slider here. I don't want to fill. I do want a stroke. That's a really big stroke. So I'll turn it down. Okay. Right. So I have this slider here. So I move this around. First of all, I want to constrain this to just the x-axis so I don't move it in the y. And for that, I'll bring up the position and I'll define the values again. So value, the x, on the x, it'll just be value 0. And on the y, I'm just going to type in a number instead. So it would be 1024. So what that does, it locks the y coordinate to 1024 which is here half of this composition. So if I move it, it's going to stay constrained on the x-axis, and it's not going to move on the y. See, no matter how much I try to move it up, it's not going up. And that's exactly what I want for a slider. You can only move the slider in the x direction, in one direction. And here, when I move it here, I don't want it to go beyond that area over there. So I'm going to clamp it to a minimum and maximum value. With that, I'm going to use the clamp expression. On the first value. So the clamp expression, you need to input 3 values. So let's see if I remember it. The first number needs to be then the first number needs to be the initial value, and the second and the next two are the minimum and maximum. So what it does, it moved it over here. That's because I'll just disable this expression quickly. Before I move it back. Okay. So minimum, bring it over here. Let's say 128. and maximum would be 1923. Okay. All right, cool. Now in this slider, no matter how far I move it, it's not going to go beyond this border because the clamp expression has limited to the minimum amount of pixels within this composition. So 128, 128 on this side and 1923 on this side. All right. And with that, I'll go back to the main comp just to limit the movement over here. Let's see. I'll disable this expression for a moment. So I gotta figure out what my min and max are. 254 by 1786. All right, so in this first one, so how I use the clamp for the wiggle, call upon the clamp expression. Oops. Yeah. So wiggle will be the first value that I'm defining, and the next two. And the next two would be the min and max. What was it? 256. And hold on, I'll disable it for a moment. Max 1788. Okay. 1788 and 252. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, with that wiggle, it's not going to go beyond those two areas that I've clamped. No matter, let's say, how high I increase the amplitude. So let's go 5,000, something ridiculous. Yeah, it's not going to move beyond those two areas. And if I increase the frequency, say 12 frequency, yeah, it's just going to dart around on the x-axis between those 2 points. I mean, not between those 2 points, but it can only move within this range. Bring it to 3. 300. Oh yeah. Move it in the middle. Now activate. Okay. And to make this expression editable, I can just make 2 slider controls. I'll name this one amplitude and name this one frequency. I'll set its default 300. And in the expression itself, I'll create two variables, amp equals, and just pick whip it to the first slider, and then frequency equals, pick whip that to the second slider. Now, instead of typing the numbers 300, you can just go amp and freak. Okay, because those values are these sliders up here. So now you can adjust the values here. So frequency, the amplitude. No, that's, oh, I had that backward. It should be freak and amp. I'll just change this. Frequency and amplitude, and I'll just switch this around too. Okay, now, cool. Instead of why is it going so slow? Freaking amp. Okay. Okay, that should be good. Okay, there we go. I just relinked it. So instead of changing the numbers here, I can just change the numbers on my slider control. Bring up the frequency, bring up the amplitude. Yeah, cool. Increase that. So by doing this, the movement, the wiggle is not going to go past these two areas that I told it. I mean, just stay within this area and not go past these two. Okay, that's all I want to show, and thought it could be useful for some things.